Today we're diving into some of the most mind-blowing prison sentences ever handed down. You won't believe how long some of these are. We're talking thousands of years, multiple life sentences. Stuff that sounds like it's straight out of a movie, but it's all too real. Get ready to have your minds blown because some of these cases are truly unbelievable. You won't want to miss this. Alright, first up we've got Charles Scott Robinson. This name might not ring a bell for many, but his story is one for the history books. This guy was sentenced to a total of 30,000 years behind bars. Yes, you heard that right, 30,000 years. It's almost unfathomable to think about, isn't it? 30,000! Just imagine the sheer weight of such a sentence. It's a number so large, it feels more like something out of a science fiction novel than real life. What could he have possibly done to deserve that much time, you ask? It's a question that naturally comes to mind when you hear about such an extraordinary sentence. Well, Robinson was convicted on 6 counts of child abuse. These were not just any charges, they were severe and deeply troubling. The nature of his crimes shocked the community and the nation. The judge in his case decided to make an example out of him, giving him 5,000 years for each count, all served back to back. This wasn't just about punishing Robinson, it was about sending a clear and unequivocal message. That means even if he lived to be 1,000 years old, he still wouldn't even come close to finishing his sentence. The enormity of the punishment reflects the gravity of his crimes. It's one of the longest sentences ever given, and it sends a powerful message about taking crimes against children seriously. The legal system wanted to ensure that such heinous acts would be met with the harshest possible consequences. Historically, sentences of this magnitude are rare. They are reserved for the most egregious offenses, and Robinson's case is a stark reminder of the lengths to which the justice system will go to protect the innocent. The case also brought to light the importance of child protection services and the role of community support in preventing such tragedies. It galvanized efforts to create safer environments for children. Legal experts often debate the effectiveness of such lengthy sentences. Some argue that they serve as a deterrent, while others believe they are more symbolic than practical. Regardless, Robinson's sentence remains a landmark in legal history. As Robinson spends his days behind bars, the world outside continues to evolve. His story, however, remains a chilling reminder of the consequences of committing unthinkable crimes. The community's response to his sentencing was one of relief and a renewed commitment to vigilance. Candlelight vigils and memorials for the victims underscored the collective resolve to protect the most vulnerable among us. In the end, Charles Scott Robinson's 30,000-year sentence is more than just a number. It's a testament to the enduring fight for justice and the unwavering dedication to safeguarding our children. Next up is Allan Wayne McLaurin, who holds the record for the longest sentence ever given in a single case. Get this, he was hit with a 21,250-year sentence. McLaurin was convicted of a bunch of charges, including rape, kidnapping, sodomy, and robbery. This guy was a menace to society, and the judge wanted to make absolutely sure he'd never hurt anyone ever again. Can you imagine being sentenced to that much time? It's basically like being told you'll never see the light of day again. Now let's talk about Dudley Wayne Kyzer. This guy got slapped with a 10,000-year sentence for murder, making it one of the longest sentences ever given for a single crime. Kyzer's case is a wild one. Back in 1976, he killed his wife, his mother-in-law, and a college student who just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. It was a brutal crime spree, and the jury didn't hold back when it came to sentencing. 10,000 years might seem excessive, but it shows just how seriously the justice system takes crimes like these. Chapter 4, 3,318 years. James Eagan Holmes. You guys remember the Aurora Theater shooting back in 2012? It was a night that forever changed the lives of many and left an indelible mark on the community of Aurora, Colorado. The shooter, James Eagan Holmes, walked into a crowded movie theater during a midnight screening of The Dark Knight Rises and opened fire. He was armed with multiple firearms and had planned the attack meticulously. In the chaos that ensued, 12 innocent lives were tragically cut short, and 70 others were injured, some with life-altering wounds. It was a horrific act of violence that shocked the nation. The news spread like wildfire, and people across the country were glued to their screens trying to make sense of the senseless. The emotional toll was immense, as families and friends of the victims grappled with their sudden loss. Holmes was eventually found guilty on 165 counts, including murder and attempted murder. The trial was a lengthy and emotional process with testimonies from survivors, first responders, and experts. The jury had to sift through a mountain of evidence and hear heart-wrenching stories from those affected. He was given 12 life sentences without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 3,318 years. This staggering sentence was a reflection of the gravity of his crimes and the impact they had on so many lives. The judge's decision aimed to ensure that Holmes would never walk free again. That's right, even if he somehow managed to outlive his life sentences, he'd still have thousands of years left to serve. The sentence serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of such heinous acts and the justice system's role in protecting society. Holmes now resides in a maximum security prison where he will spend the rest of his days reflecting on the devastation he caused. Chapter 5, 1035 Years, Martin Bryant. Over in Australia, we've got Martin Bryant, who's responsible for the Port Arthur massacre. In 1996, Bryant went on a shooting rampage in Port Arthur, Tasmania, killing 35 people and injuring 23 others. It's the deadliest mass shooting in Australian history. Bryant was sentenced to 35 life sentences without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 1,035 years. The judge in his case said that Bryant's crimes were so wicked that no punishment could be too severe. Chapter 6, 141,078 Years, Chamoy Thipyaso. Now this next one is a little different. Chamoy Thipyaso wasn't a murderer or a violent criminal, but she still managed to get one of the longest prison sentences ever. Thipyaso was the mastermind behind a massive pyramid scheme in Thailand that defrauded over 16,000 people out of their savings. She was eventually convicted of corporate fraud and sentenced to a whopping 141,078 years in prison. It's the longest sentence ever given for a financial crime, and it just goes to show that white-collar crimes can have serious consequences. Chapter 7, 99 Years, Bobby Joe Long. Bobby Joe Long, also known as the classified ad rapist, terrorized Florida in the early 1980s. He was convicted of murdering 8 women, but it's believed he may have been responsible for as many as 10 deaths. Long would lure women from their homes using fake classified ads. Then he'd kidnap, torture, and ultimately kill them. He was sentenced to 28 consecutive life sentences, plus an additional 99 years. The judge in his case wanted to make sure that Long would never ever be released from prison. Chapter 8, 161 Life Sentences, Terry Nichols. Finally, we have Terry Nichols, one of the perpetrators of the Oklahoma City bombing. This tragic event shook the nation to its core and left an indelible mark on American history. In 1995, Nichols helped Timothy McVeigh detonate a truck bomb outside the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City. The explosion was catastrophic, killing 168 people, including 19 children, and injuring hundreds more. The blast caused massive destruction, reducing the building to rubble and leaving a gaping hole in the heart of the city. It was the deadliest act of domestic terrorism in U.S. history. The nation mourned as images of the devastation and the stories of the victims filled the media. Memorials were held, and the American flag flew at half-mast across the country in honor of those who lost their lives. Nichols was brought to trial and faced the full weight of the justice system. He was convicted on 161 counts of murder, conspiracy, and using a weapon of mass destruction. The trial was a lengthy and emotional process, with testimonies from survivors, first responders, and family members of the victims. He was sentenced to 161 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. This means that Nichols will spend the rest of his life behind bars, with no chance of ever being released. The sentence was a reflection of the gravity of his crimes and the immense loss and suffering he caused. It's the harshest sentence ever handed down in a U.S. federal court. The case of Terry Nichols serves as a stark reminder of the devastating impact of domestic terrorism and the importance of vigilance and justice in preventing such tragedies. The Oklahoma City bombing remains a somber chapter in American history, and the memory of the victims continues to be honored and remembered. Thanks for watching. If you found these sentences as insane as we did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more incredible content. Which case shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below. We'll be back next time with more wild stories from around the world. See you next time.